Hello, and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym Podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 1890. The topic is mindset, and the title is Turning Mountains into Molehills. So you may have heard the phrase, making a mountain out of a molehill, which is when we allow the small stresses, the small concerns, the small things in life turn into something big. An example that made me think of this podcast topic today, well, there is a bill I have to pay every month, and I could send via snail mail a voided check, and they'll set up auto payment for free. I continually forget to do that and don't want to take the time to do it. But then it leads to the fact that I have to take the time to call and make a payment every month. And it's absolutely stupid on my part to let this turn into something that annoys me. But I end up waiting until the last minute to make the phone call. And then I'm like, dang it, anyhow, I need to just mail that check. And then I get into something else. And it's not until the next month. And I'm like, dang it, anyhow, I got to make that phone call. I got to mail that check. And it just seems to be this annoying thing that comes around every month. I timed it this morning, and to make the payment over the phone took me 1 minute and 51 seconds. That was it. But this is something that every month annoys the crap out of me. And every month it seems to be this ordeal every day, on those days. So I was just laughing to myself about how it's kind of ridiculous that I let this thing that takes 1 minute and 51 seconds bug me so much. But it's not uncommon. You know, we think about small things that we have to do all day, and it just adds up and it becomes overwhelming at times. For example, people might cook food for dinner, eat the dinner, and then they leave the dishes in the sink, and then you do that for the next time, and all of a sudden you have this mountain of dishes in your sink. You may wash your clothes, take it from the jar into your bedroom. Maybe you throw it on the bed, but it doesn't quite get put away. So you move your wardrobe to the floor, so it becomes a floordrobe. And then all of a sudden, it's the next time for a wash, and more clothes piles on. And now you have this mountain of clothes. You might set something, if you have a staircase in your house, you might set something at the bottom of the stairs and say, okay, next time I go up, I'm going to take this up with me. But the next time you go up, you are already carrying something. Or you're in a rush and you just want to hurry up and grab something and come right back down. And then you put a next thing next to the other thing at the stairs. And then that happens again and again. And all of a sudden there's this mountain of things that need to go up the stairs. All of these things are molehills. They're all small things. Washing a few dishes. Putting away a few items of clothing. Carrying one thing up the stairs. They're all small things, small investments. But yet we put them off over and over again until they become something big, or we dread doing them as if they are something big. Like that phone call for me is only 1 minute and 51 seconds, but it feels like this enormous frustration every month. Why do we do that? And one of the reasons I laugh with Meredith all the time is I joke with her, and we both say it is, we don't have endless 5 minutes. And what I mean by that is a lot of things in life only take 5 minutes. But I don't have infinite 5 minutes. I don't have an endless amount of 5 minutes. I only have so many units of 5 minutes, and I'm just running out of units of 5 minutes. It might only take 5 minutes, but I don't even have 5 minutes to do it. That's the way it feels like. There are small things, but even the small things eventually max out our time. Especially if we're trying to get bigger things in. If I'm trying to get the big things in for my day, I might put off the small things to conserve energy, to conserve time. And then all of a sudden, by the end of the day, I have no energy and I have no time, and therefore the small things don't get done. How can we turn the mountains that are being created from the molehills back into molehills? there's two things that I focus on. And this is from reading a lot of books from people smarter than me. But there's two things that I focus on. One is to plan my day, and I'm going to talk through that in a second. And the other is self-care. I am awful at self-care. Absolutely awful at it. But I've gotten a lot better. When I look at the first one, the plan the day, I'm well aware of this due to, running business and helping a lot of other people manage their life. So with all of my clients, we talk about, I might write the best nutrition program, the best training program, but if they can't do them, if they're so busy that they can never work out, if they're so busy they can't take the time to get the foods that we should be having available and ready and prepared, then those plans mean nothing. They are completely worthless unless they're actually executed. So, part of making sure that my time is not worthless, writing those things, I help people and we talk about how to improve the management of our life. How do we get the training in? How do we get the nutrition in? And that's just managing life. So I talk about these things regularly with clients. And one of the ones is planning our day. We want to be intentional versus reactionary. Now, I've talked a lot about this in the past, but there's a concept of pebbles, rocks, pebbles, and sand. I'm not going to go through it again because I talk about it literally so often. But when you plan your day, you have big things, middle sized things, and small things. When you start to plan your day, it becomes pretty obvious that the most productive way to spend your day is to plan your rocks, like plan the big things. Make sure they have a time in which they're to be done and time allotted to actually do them. So it's like, okay, I want to work out at 10, then at 10:15 I'm going to call my friend, then at 10:30 I'm going to do this. And it's like, well, how the hell are you going to work out at 10 and be done by 10:15? How are you going to call your friend at 10:15 and think you're going to move on to something by 10:30? So we have to have time to do it, but we also have to have the amount of time it takes to do it planned. So I know when I'm going to do it, but I also have accounted for how long it takes to do that. When you start to plan your day and be proactive with that, it makes sense and it's pretty intuitive to address the rocks. One of the challenges can be is that we never plan the sand. So I'm trying to fit as much as I can into my day. You'll be able to fit the most in by planning your rocks, filling in the pebbles and sand around them. But you do have to be intentional with the pebbles and sand. You have to be as intentional with those as you would be with your rocks. So for example, you might plan a doctor's appointment, plan your workout, and plan when you're going to make tomorrow's meals. And that might be, your day, like some big rocks for the day. Some small pebbles, maybe at work, I know I got to do this extra phone call, so I'll do that at lunch. I got to, plan something then. Maybe somebody so-and-so was wanting to reach out and talk to me, and maybe I can call them on the commute home. So you plan out your little pebbles, like the things that are kind of important, but they could kind of fill in different gaps between the rocks. But what we always forget to plan is the sand. Okay, when am I going to get the sand done? Now, this is something that I've been working on in my own life is I plan my days. I know the big things I want to do each day. But now, as I've practiced doing that, I do account for at what time will I address the sand. So I might start my day early. Maybe I get up at 6:30. I think, okay, the first thing I want to do is prep the meals for the day for Meredith and I. Then I'm going to go downstairs. I'm going to do my podcast. Maybe I'll catch a workout. And then I want to come up. I know I want to do a couple programs, some client check-ins, but I also have to schedule this appointment, make sure we have that set up. So I'm going to do that after the workout. Then I'll get into some programs. So I'll see what I can do during the day for that. But at 3 o'clock, I'm going to check in and see what small things I need to do. Let me step away from the computer at 3. Let me step away from the pebbles, because I know my big things are already addressed by 3 in the afternoon, if I can. Let me step away from the pebbles and just do some sand. So I might, walk around the house, maybe put a couple things away that are sitting on the counter. If there's a cardboard box, I'll break that down and put it in the recycling bin. So I account for, okay, by 3 o'clock, let me step away from everything, just walk around the house, get some movement in, do some small things, let my brain rest, let my brain recover from work as I do some small tasks. I'll carry the things up the stairs or down the stairs, whichever way they have to go. I'll put some clothes away. I'll do the small things. So I often plan the sand somewhere in like the latter half of the afternoon or early evening as a way to just step away from my bigger work. Some days, if I have the mental capacity and I'm kind of fired up and excited, I might listen to an audiobook while I'm doing those small things. So that way I can learn more for business or learn more for self-development. Other days, I'm kind of brain dead and I want silence. So I'll just kind of focus on that. But that is something I've been working on, is to better plan the sand. When you start planning your days and you start working on being more intentional versus reactive, you are going to start with planning big things. But don't stop there. Once you've gotten practice with planning big things, start planning those smaller things as well. Make sure you kind of map out your day, and that will help turn the molehills that turned into mountains back into molehills. Now, the second component is self-care, and for me, that's part of the sand, is stepping away from work, maybe having silence, maybe listening to an audiobook, just having some me time. Now, for me, my workouts are me time, like they're restorative time for myself. Most often, that's awesome and plenty enough if I can get that in for the day. But sometimes I'll maybe try a workout, and for some reason I had a phone call I had to manage, or something was happening while I was trying to work out and it wasn't super restorative. Or maybe I was making a couple videos and it just kind of, I need a little more recovery time later in the day because I kind of was super proactive and mentally exhausted by the afternoon. So I'll use the small stuff as me time. And like I said, sometimes I'll listen to audiobooks, sometimes I want silence. There was one time Meredith and I took a friend of hers out on a boat, and we were going around the lake, and as we were bringing the boat back in, there were a couple people, I don't know what they were doing, and I was kind of trying to pay attention to them, but also not hit like the sandbar area. Then I had to like spin the boat around and kind of back in, and I turned down the radio, and Meredith and her friends started laughing, and it was like 100% I understood, and I started laughing as well, is that I turned the radio down so I could see better. There was too much stimulation happening. I needed to reduce the stimulation. So I had to turn the radio down so I could see better. And I feel like so often we're all walking around with the radio cranked up. We're all walking around with so much stimulation that we need to turn the radio down so we can see better. We need to bring the stimulation down some. Quiet time can be very helpful. As you're like a kid, when you get put in quiet time, it's like time out. As an adult, you need to put yourself in time out. So it is helpful at times. I know at moments when I've been overwhelmed, especially in the early years of owning the gym, and I was training 10 to 12 hours of clients every day, and that was full 1 hour face-to-face talking to them. I had like 30 seconds to go to the bathroom, then I'd go right into the next client. And there was chunks of like 6 or 7 hours, then a 1 or 2 hour break, then another, 5, 6 or so hours. So it was pretty wicked. Those were long days. But there were times where I would go into the bathroom and I would set a 2-minute timer on my watch, turn the lights out, and just relax. I know that sounds crazy, but I just needed just 2 minutes. Can I just have 2 minutes of silence? Can I have 2 minutes to just sit down? Can I have 2 minutes to bring my blood pressure down, bring my heart rate down, bring the stimulus down? You'd be amazed how restorative sometimes those 2 minutes were. Those 2 minutes were enough to get me through the next hour or 2 or 3. Sometimes we just need a little quiet time. We need a little me time. We need time in the day to calm our mind. Often people get very frantic throughout the day, and that can lead to a lot of feeling of stress and being overwhelmed. When if you just take a second to breathe, you realize there's nothing more happening in this moment than what I can do in this moment. If I just stay in this moment and do this one thing, that's really the only thing I can do. So really, the day only comes at me one thing at a time. Rather than looking 5, 6, 7 steps ahead, if I plan to my day already, the day before or the morning of, I don't need to look 5, 6, 7 things ahead. I already know what I'm doing. I already have it planned. I just do the thing I'm doing now. I look at my plan, I do the next thing. I look at my plan, I do the next thing. Often, we're overwhelmed, we're overstimulated. We're just not taking good care of ourselves. Our sleep is crap, our food is crap, so we feel like crap. For sleep, you can definitely, when you're supposed to be in bed, say you're supposed to be in bed at 10 or 11 or midnight, 30 minutes to 45 minutes beforehand, maybe start turning the lights down. Whatever room you're in, turn all the lights off. Have like a low lamp or just a small amount of light. Maybe lay down. Instead of sitting down, lay down. Go lay in bed. Try to turn a screen off. Try to get away from a TV or a cell phone. You can do some journaling. Journal about your day. Maybe plan out your next day. Do a gratitude journal. Talk about things that you want to do the next day, that you're stressed about today. You can do a brain dump. Like if you have a lot on your mind, put it on paper. Get it out of your mind. So get into a little routine so you can get yourself to sleep a little bit smoother and easier. For nutrition, just try to be more intentional with what you do. If you like grazing throughout the day and say you eat every 2 or 3 hours, just try to do that every day. Maybe you only like 2 or 3 big meals, try to do that every day. Try to be more consistent with how you eat. And that'll give you more consistent energy. Often, the molehills turn into mountains because of lack of planning and lack of self-care. If we don't plan our day, we kind of feel reactionary and pulled and tugged, and it's just super stressful, super overwhelming trying to make sure everything gets fit into the day. If we don't take care of ourselves, we're exhausted, and we just don't have anything more to give, no matter how small the thing is that we're supposed to be doing. If you want to stress less about the molehills, plan your day ahead of time and plan your self-care. Operate from a place of energy, not exhaustion. If you need any help with any of this, you can sign up for a free 15-minute consultation via email, brutalirongym@gmail.com, or you can go to our website, www.brutalirongym.com. On our one-on-one services page, we have a link there that you can sign up for a 15-minute consultation. I'd love to talk with you, hear about your goals, hear about your struggles, and give some advice as to what we could do to help you overcome those struggles. If you need anything, you can always reach out. My email is brutalirongym@gmail.com. If you like the podcast, please share the podcast. If you like the podcast, please consider donating to support the podcast, which you can do on our website. Also, if you like the information we share in the podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels. You can find us and follow us on Instagram and YouTube under the name Brutal Iron Gym. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.